Hi, sweeties. How are you doing? Welcome tonight. Hope you are good. So, tell a poor white woman or man that he or she is better than a black person and watch a black person pick his or her pocket. Yeah, this is how it is. And a very big shout out to this beautiful sister because she laid all of it all out and how it has been playing out. You all remember last year before the election, how everybody agreed that they are going to do better with the election, and then in the end, you all already know how they always wait for black people to save democracy because black people have been the ones saving democracy all decades. And after the election, the result came and it was what it was. And black people said, game over. Time for us to rest. And they are still resting to this very moment. So shout out to 90 something percent, 92% and 80 something percent of black men and women that did that job. You all are beautiful and amazing. Now, let me tell you something because I did so many collection of the past and present to talk about how they have really been doing this thing for a longer time. Because these people openly said that, if black people becomes in power, it means that they will have to depend on black people for anything. So it is okay for them to be president or have a big position in the government when people like me do not have position. But you know what? Let's get into this.
Poor white people are the most emotionally and psychologically abused group in all of America, bar none. It's not even close. It's not no other racial, ethnic, or class group has even come close to being as totally propagandized as poor white people are. And it's because there has been a diabolical, centuries-long effort to turn them against themselves first and turn them against other people so that they never turn against the rich. The energy in America today is very fraught. It is very tense. And there is a lot of fear, but do you notice who the fear is coming from? We're fine. We knew all along who and what this country was because it never tried to hide itself to us. That energy that we're feeling, yeah, that's the collective awakening of poor and lower middle class white people who, until extremely, unbelievably recently, genuinely thought the government was on their side. They legitimately thought that. They're actually blown by the amount of hidden racists, by the amount of corruption, by the amount of scheming and backroom dealing and pedophilia. Like, they are actually shocked. And it's because back in the 1600s and 1700s, when poor white people were working in solidarity with free men and enslaved black people and Native Americans, the rich people got so scared, so horrified by the thought of them being outnumbered by people who hate them, that they meticulously brainwashed poor white people into hating everybody and into being the foot soldiers of white supremacy so that they would not overthrow the rich elite. This is not a conspiracy. This is documented American history. Bacon's rebellion in 1676 was the prime example of what the rich white elite feared so much. Bacon's rebellion, so Nathaniel Bacon, right? Nathaniel Bacon was one of those frontier whites who the rich elite had pushed out to the edge of civilization so that they could act as a buffer between the pissed off Native Americans and the rich people. They literally put them out there as food. They literally put them out there to the wolves, literally and figuratively, to be like, okay, if the Native Americans get mad at us, they're going to kill the poor whites first so that we have time to hop on these ships and get away. That was the rich elite's thinking. And Nathaniel Bacon, who wasn't even poor, by the way, he had a little bit of money in his pocket, but he was still pissed off at the way that poor white people in general were being treated. So Nathaniel Bacon, he said, okay, I got something for you. I'm going to organize a militia hundreds of men strong, with not just white people. I'm going to get some free men, I'm going to get some enslaved black people, and we're going to turn all this shit around. So Nathaniel Bacon and a bunch of black people, like hundreds of black people, like this is hundreds of people basically just took up arms against the federal government and was like, no, fuck you. No, we're actually sick of being treated like we don't matter, of being treated like cattle. And when I say cattle, I use that word very deliberately. Because when people talk about black history versus white history, they act as if black people were the only people being used as objects for profit. No. White people have a history of struggle. White people, particularly poor white people, have a history of being food in the belly of the beast that is the American system. But the rich elite have been, again, so thorough and so meticulous at rewriting the history that a lot of you don't know that. Capitalism had gotten to such a degree in England that there was an increasing amount of vagrant poor just wandering the streets. People out of work, people starving to death, people freezing to death, just wandering the streets of England. And the England elite started getting sick of it because rich people don't like to see poor people unless they're working, unless they have their heads down and their backs are bent over with labor. Rich people don't like to see poor people. So in England, they started passing these laws, beggars' laws. And if you got caught begging, for food because your children were starving, they would strip you to the waist and whip you bloody in England. Poor white people have never been the prize. And so then it got to the point where the English elite were so sick of all these poor people wandering around their cities that they were like, what should we do? Should we pay them more? Nah, that can't be it. Let's just ship them off to America as punishment. Let's arrest a bunch of people who we don't like, who make us look bad, and we should just ship them off to America as punishment. So tens of thousands of English convicts were shipped off to America as punishment. And the state of those indentured servant ships was not much better than slave ships. Let's be clear about that. They weren't chained to the deck, shitting and pissing and menstruating all over each other like the slaves were. But it was not a cushy cruise to America. The rich people, both in the American colonies and in England, were making a lick off these indentured servants. And so when the servants would sign up to be indentured under, duress and in desperation, just trying to escape the conditions of their life in England, they would lock these people up and imprison them until the voyage set sail, just to make sure they didn't run away. These poor people, they would just lock them up to make sure they didn't run away after they agreed to work for a master for 5 to 7 years. They called them masters too, yeah. The voyage to America lasted 8, 10, or 12 weeks, and the servants were packed into ships with the same fanatic concern for profits that marked the slave ships. If the weather was bad and the trip took too long, they ran out of food. The C.C. Flower, leaving Belfast in 1741, was at sea 16 weeks, and when it arrived in Boston, 46 of its 106 passengers were dead of starvation, 6 of them eaten by the survivors. On another trip, 32 children died of hunger and disease and were thrown into the ocean. Gottlieb Mittelberger, a musician traveling from Germany to America around 1750, wrote about his voyage. This is an account from this German about what he saw on an indentured servant's ship to America in the mid-1700s. During the journey, the ship is full of pitiful signs of distress, smells, fumes, horrors, vomiting, various kinds of seasickness, fever, dysentery, headaches, heats, constipation, boils, scurvy, cancer, mouth rot, and similar afflictions, all of them caused by the age and the high salted state of the food, especially of the meat, as well as by the very bad and filthy water. Add to all that shortage of food, hunger, thirst, frost, heat, dampness, fear, misery, vexation, and lamentation, as well as other troubles. On board our ship, on a day on which we had a great storm, a woman about to give birth and unable to deliver under the circumstances was pushed through one of the portholes into the sea. This is the conditions that the indentured servants traveled to America over, and when they got here, they were sold on auction blocks, just like the black slaves. They were beaten and they were whipped. The servant women were raped. And when they would try to take these people to court, because these masters were violating the terms of their contracts by being extremely severely abusive to these indentured servants, the court was filled with, you guessed it, rich masters who would acquit them. One servant died because his mistress cut off all of his toes, and she was acquitted. Another master was brought to court for raping 2 servant women. He was also known to beat his wife and children, and he beat and whipped another servants, had him tied up in the basement, and he died too. And guess what? He also got acquitted. This is how poor white people have always been treated by rich white people in this country. And yet they still continue to support them. Because rich white people have put in so much effort to turn poor white people against everybody but them. Go to part 2.
I had a professor during like a midterm election intentionally put my class on this discussion to talk about why do people vote against their own best interest. And she let us run that conversation for like 45 minutes. And we gave tons of different answers. We were talking about a lack of education. We were talking about literacy rates. We were talking about propaganda. We went so far as to talk about things like library funding and a lack of access to the internet in rural areas. But eventually she interrupted us all and she said, I'm sure that all plays a role. I'm not saying any of you are necessarily wrong, but what about your bias as an observer in this situation? And all of us said, what are you talking about? And she went on to explain that in the entire conversation we were having about people voting against their own best interest, we never stopped to ask what those people thought their best interest was. We're doing the same thing with farmers right now. Specifically white farmers, let's be clear. They voted for Donald Trump despite what we would assume their best interests are. Losing their workers, losing their farm, going bankrupt, etc. They did it regardless. So the question then becomes, what do they think their best interest is, if it's not all the things that we've assumed? And the answer is probably white supremacy. You say they let their racism and misogyny get in the way. No, they let their racism and misogyny be their priority. It didn't get in the way of what their own best interests are. It was their best interest.
Oh, why do poor white people vote against themselves time and time again? They vote for Trump and the other MAGA politicians only to have every promise broken, prices go up, social supports evaporate. Here's why. First, remember what I talked about recently, the psychological wage of whiteness. That term was coined by W.E. Du Bois to describe poor white folks being paid with social status rather than decent living conditions. They're convinced by the elites that they're better than black folks, better than immigrants, Latinos, LGBTQ folks. They're convinced that being white puts them in the same league as the elites. Of course, the elites know otherwise, but the poor whites buy it because they're grasping at straws. Second, they are convinced that the people they're supposedly better than are the big threat in their lives. Not the rich, not the corporations or the politicians, but immigrants, black folks, welfare queens, LGBTQ, criminals, the usual scapegoats. Third, the elites promise protection to poor white folks. A politician comes along and says, I'll keep those people in their place, or I'll kick them out, or I'll lock them up. Or more politely, I'll defend your values. They don't say, I'll make your life better. Well, they say it, they just don't mean it. They'll say, I'll make sure they don't get ahead of you. Fourth, they vote for the punishment, not the policy. When a law gets passed that slashes public housing or school funding or food aid, they think, good, that'll stop those lazy freeloaders. And they do some mental gymnastics that make them believe it's worth losing those things for their own families in order to see those problematic Black people and immigrants and so forth being punished. It gets to a point where just seeing those guys being punished is reward enough, which is pretty sick, but that's how behavior works. Their housing, schools, and groceries are on the chopping block too, but they blame that on Biden. Always a scapegoat. They get hit by the same policies they were told would punish the others, and they blame the wrong people. The system fails them, but they've been trained to blame the scapegoats, not the cause, which is the rich people, the people they voted for. So they think the problem is still those people, not the fact that they were personally manipulated by the people they voted for. They're basically saying, I'll take the hit as long as you don't help them, or worse, as long as you hurt them. That is the psychological wage Du Bois was talking about, the trade-off between material security for racial status. And that's a crying shame, folks.
White people who do not support the Dollar Tree dictator, come here, have a seat. It's time to talk, okay? So this is a follow-up to the video that I have pinned on my page. It talks about being non-MAGA in a sea full of MAGA people and how do you respond? Is it uncomfortable for you? How do you deal with uncomfortable situations? I think y'all need my help. Some of you need my help. If you ever find yourself stuck in a room full of Republicans or MAGA supporters who are already clearly too ashamed to admit their party is destroying our country, but still want to be argumentative, let me give you a few notes. See, Black people have mastered the art of being unbothered in a world full of chaos. Yes, we created our own spaces so we could avoid and disassociate with everything else that goes on. And for the most part, the people that are around us and in our circles are in alignment. I realize that that's not the case for a lot of Caucasian constituents. So let me help you out. Let's say, for instance, Aunt Becky's at the dinner table and she's like, Trump tells it like it is. Meanwhile, you have a drunk uncle at the end of the table who also does the same, but we will never let him run the country, would we? I just feel like Biden was too old. And then you got Mitch McConnell thinking that he can run Social Security. Slavery was such a long time ago. Actually, it wasn't. And so was the Revolutionary War. But y'all still talking about that shit, aren't you? All I'm saying is protect your peace, because there will be situations and times where we need it. And if you have nothing, then what are you doing? What are you even doing? So when you're preparing for Thanksgiving dinner, do like us. Sit there, watch the Cowboys lose, and then ask who made the potato salad. Bye, guys.
Women voting against their own best interest. Why are they marrying men that want to take away their right to vote? It's insane, right? Let me try and explain what I think is going on using examples from my own life. Before I do, be sure to like, comment, share, and do all of the things. Even check me out over on IG, got a little blue check mark. So, full disclosure, my family, traditionally Republican. I know, y'all have called me a plant and secret MAGA. I'm not. I was the raging liberal of the family. I stood out like a sore thumb for many years. My dad was a Republican until 2016. His father was a Republican his entire life. And many people just vote the way their families always voted. If your family was a Republican, you just voted Republican because that's what you did. Same thing with Democratic families. You just voted Democrat because that's how everybody else voted. Most people don't watch the news. Most people don't pay attention. And a lot of people are intimidated by politics. They're intimidated by the issues because there's just so much going on and they don't even know where to start. And I think there's a combination of factors at play. One, they're just going along with what they've always known. It doesn't mean that they don't care or they're less intelligent. Actually, that's not the case. In my experience, Just in my own family, I've had relatives come up to me and go, Mia, why are you supporting this candidate? Could you explain it? Or, hey, can you tell me what this actually means? Or why do you support this? Like, why do you have this stance? Can you explain it to me? And I would have that conversation and we would have a very frank discussion. And more often than not, we would tend to agree. More often than not. But again, they would say, it's just so complicated. It's so confusing. I just do whatever, our grandfather did or our dad did or whatever. It's fine. That doesn't make them bad people. But it's confusing now and it matters more now because we're not talking about our father's or grandfather's Republican Party. That grand old party is extinct. Let's be clear about that. That party does not exist anymore. It matters more now. And what I tell people is pick one issue, one thing. Start with one thing, one issue, and learn about that. Research about that issue that really you care about, whether it's healthcare, education, women's rights. Focus on one thing and start local. Where do your local candidates stand on the issue? Candidates for governor, city council, town council, etc. And then go from there. That's your entry point. But that's what I think is going on. Why are so many women voting against their...
A lot of times online, I see discourse of people asking, why do people who live in red states vote the way that they do when they are voting against their own interests, when they are the ones who are going to be impacted the most by these policies that are pushed by conservatives and Republicans. And I'll tell you why. As someone that grew up in a red state, in an ultra-conservative environment, in an ultra-Christian environment, these Republicans weaponize these people's faith against themselves. And I'll explain that because these Republicans know that if you grow up in that environment, you are taught to put your faith before anything else. That before anything else, your faith should come first, and to never question that faith. And to question that faith is to go against God. These Republican politicians know this about these people, and they weaponize it against them to get what they want from them. They tell these people that if you vote this way, if you vote for me, I'm supporting God. You are supporting God by voting for me. And to go against that is to go against your own faith. These Republican politicians know this about these people, that they will put their faith first every single time because they refuse to go against God. And they weaponize it because and they're literally voting for something that goes against their own interests. And that's why. That's the plain and simple truth of it.
This is all this is all I got from this video. And I am sure nothing is new when it comes to this video. And a very big thank you to this beautiful sister because she actually, she put all her thoughts and everything together all in one. That was absolutely beautiful. Let me tell you something, because this is something that has been happening. It's nothing new to Black people, but to some people it might be new, right? Voting against their own interests did not start today. It's something that started way long time, for decades, and they've been doing it gracefully and amazingly well. Because when people do not regard you, or when people do not take you for anything, they will always do anything to make sure that you are under them. That is one of the reasons why I've been saying that for these people to fight racism, especially white women, that it's going to be hard, because they see this hierarchy as something that, there is someone that I am better than, so they have to look up to me. That is one of the reasons to this very moment. When you talk about coming together to vote, they will tell you, yes, that we are going to do it together and go behind your back to do what they want to do. At least they were better. White women were better than white men, because white men did their thing during the last election. And the ones that actually voted are the ones that are trying to run away from their abusive men. You know what I am saying? Now, all year round, you all remember before the election, as at last year, before the election, I screamed so hard. I don't know, it was like I knew. I kept saying it. For those that know me on this channel will definitely know what I am saying. I kept saying that Black people will not save democracy this coming after this election. And as if the universe got away of, I kept saying this until the last day till the last day. The election came, they voted after election, the coalition and all that came, and they did their thing. And Black people, the best part is that Black people did not have missing, but they already said within themselves that however it goes, that they will see. And that was how it happened. See, one thing I will never stop being part of my people, because they are the real embodiment of everything you need in humans. Black people. So now I have been saying that, okay, I learned this from Black people too. They said, tell a poor white man that he or she is better than a Black person. Watch the Black person pick his or her pocket. And it's true. It is true. Right? It is true. In everything we do today, you can still see that attitude and behavior, because they are the enablers. They enable people that are better than them, because how am I supposed to go and enable someone that I know that is like it? They go and enable the rich people, and the rich people come out and make life hard. But they will be glad. They will be glad having that it's a white man that is making their life harder than any other person. Because tell me before election how some of them came out to say that that they are not going to vote for Kamala Harris. Why? Because they feel like Black men were going to take away everything from them, and they do not want to depend on Black people. That when a Black person becomes a president, it means that they have to depend on, like, Black men will be the one channeling everything. When Kamala Harris said that she is coming to work for everybody. So from that point, if you see, from that time, that was when I became really scared of them. Because it's okay for them to be president or to be anything in the government, but it's not okay for my people to be in the government, because they fear. Why do they have that fear? Because they knew what they did decades ago. They feel like your mindset is like their mindset. But no, my people are looking for a way to dismantle the system. If this system is dismantled, that's all. So that thing that is on their mind is far from what is. But I really do wish sometimes that thing that is on their mind is also the same thing on my people's mind. I am sure you know what I am saying, but it's not actually. So every how many years they will still go and enable someone that is not good for them. You know, let me tell you, just like the way farmers, even with everything, they told them that all these grants will be taken away from them, and the farmers still voted against their own interest. Well, before they Medicaid, I remember that I brought video about a man who said he earns $800 a month, but his Medicaid, the medication he is on also is like 20,000. You all remember that he said it, 20,000 US dollars. That if not for Medicaid, that him and his friends would not be alive. But he knew that he needed that Medicaid to survive and to live, and still voted against his own interest. I remember a woman that she has 2 children. I am not trying to be mean to anybody. Her children cannot move without her help, but she still voted against Medicaid, and they are going to cut all that off. How is she supposed to survive? All these things that I am trying to point out to you, so you all will understand that it is not me making anything up, or it is not me trying to cite my people. All these things are playing right in your faces, and they are real. It's not like somebody made them up. Nobody made anything up. That is the worst part. They are all real. Now, for the farmers that thought, to them, in their own words, because I still posted it here, because anything I'm saying, I will tell you that I posted it here. They said when they started losing their jobs, guess what they said? They said, can people that did not vote for him lose their jobs? Why people that voted for him keep their job? You and I know that I brought this video here. They said it. But it doesn't happen that way, because they thought my own people will be the first people to get all the basketballs. I know everybody at this point is being bamboozled, but they are the ones hearing it. They are experiencing it. You know? And after all that, I remember them asking, does it mean that Black people are not experiencing all these things they are experiencing? Black people are experiencing it, but they have lived through all this life, and they told you all these things were going to happen. So they already prepared their mind that all this were going to happen. It's not like they knew it was going to happen, and it's all happening. When people that are not better are talking, you better listen. If not, you will get bamboozled. Your ass is going to get whooped real bad. So I have a lot of more examples that I want to give, but I will stop here. One thing I know for sure is that when you do not see me as someone to respect, I absolutely will not see you as someone that I can respect. Why? Respect is a reciprocal. If you do not see me, if you see me as someone you can dehumanize or something, I probably will not see you as anything. Even when I say that you are in problem, that I am supposed to come and save you, I will run away, because when I finish saving you, you might call the cops on me and tell them that I stole from you, because it's normal. You remember the video I posted some days ago about about a couple that called up on a Black man, just like that. So I am also being careful. I don't want to get into trouble. Everyone got to sit up. And how do you sit up? By doing what is right. Because if you end up also voting against your own interest, I see some of you asking for money to buy gas. How are people feeding? Because you did the wrong thing. You didn't vote right. All this price gouging and all that were the things this woman said she was going to do. Say she wasn't going to let you pay taxes. She will make the rich people, but they took away tax from rich people, and you are the one paying all that. So I'm asking, they can buy groceries, that they are jealous of people that go to the store and buy whatever they want, because you did the wrong thing. I will draw the curtain here. Bye for now.